Well, we've come to this. If you were to ask someone who was at least aware of the Famicom's existence what the worst games on the system were, there's a pretty good chance they'd say Gonso Saiyuki Super Monkey Daibouken. Or at least Super Monkey Adventure. It's a game that's gained a reputation even beyond the weirdos like me who collect the system. And it's one of the 3 games that people will hold out as the absolute bottom. Now actually, I don't think it's the worst game on the Famicom. I think it's the second worst game. My pick for worst is almost as awful to play, but there's also some really unpleasant stuff surrounding the game. Super Monkey Daibouken is the first game from VAP, who were a video production company that did 3D graphics for commercials in the early 80s. Seeing the Famicom boom, they reassigned some of their staff to make a game. The programmer was trying to make something in the mold of the Ultima series, and that explains some of the weirder systems in the game. Apparently there was a special event with the team, meeting people who played the game, and I have been told it was intensely uncomfortable. But there is a happy ending. After this, the team was scattered and they wound up at other, better companies working on better games. The Saiyuki in the game's title is the Japanese title of the novel Journey to the West. It's about a monk in ancient China who starts out on the far east coast and travels to India to get Buddhist scripture. On the way he gathers companions, including the Monkey King, who fights their enemies while flying on a cloud and carrying a staff that infinitely extends. The novel's one of the foundational works of classic literature in Asia, and you'll see its influence everywhere. Super Monkey Daibouken is a pretty direct translation of the novel to game. If you want to make it to India, you'll need to take a very roundabout route through the country. You start on Taiwan? You'll have to wind your way around the whole map if you ever want to get there. And that map is huge. It might be the biggest map that we've seen in a Famicom game so far. It's so big it takes several seconds to load in when you switch screens. And the movement on your journey is so slow. You're going to be walking for a very long time. I'd estimate it takes about an hour and a half to beat Super Monkey Daibouken. And almost all of that is just walking. Eventually, as you're walking around, you'll be attacked by something. And that begins this combat scene, which is played from a side perspective. You start out controlling the Monkey King in these scenes, and you press the A button repeatedly to swing his staff. You want to generally flail in the direction that enemies are. If they blink, that means you hit one. Often their attacks will just go through you and not affect you. Also in combat, one of your companions may join in. They don't really do anything, rarely do damage, and you can hit them. So you know you really want them there. These sections at the bottom of the screen are everyone's life bars, and they'll slowly recover as you walk around if you have some food and water. If you really want to use a companion in battle, you can hit start to switch out the Monkey King for someone else. You can bring in the monk, a pig, a kappa, or the monk's horse, which turns into a dragon. You'd think the dragon would be useful, but it drains away your food stores pretty quickly. Everyone else pretty much can't attack. So switching out your characters is a terrible idea. You don't start with the pig or kappa. You have to pick them up along the way. Also while in battle, you can press A and B at the same time to summon your cloud to fly on. This can help you fight some flying enemies, but the flying enemies' hitboxes are even worse than the regular enemies' hitboxes. The cloud is most useful when you're fighting a giant because you have to hit them in the face to kill them. When there's no combatants left, you hit attack again and that ends combat. While you're wandering around, you might stumble across some houses. A lot of these have farmers who will give you some food and water, though sometimes that pot is actually medicine. If you were flying on a cloud when you entered combat though, you can't pick the items up, and hitting A and B to get off the cloud exits the scene because there's no combatants. Fortunately, you can just re-enter. These building clusters are cities. You won't get a lot there, but sometimes you do get a continue code. The continue codes are just button presses that you enter before you press start, and the game will pick up from that point. There's actually a lot of overlap in the codes. For example, A and B, A, then A and B continues at an earlier point than A and B, A, then A. It's not very well thought out. These stair steps are passages that lead to other places. Almost all of them wind up taking you backward, though. The real forward passages are often invisible, and you just have to stumble into the right square to make progress. Just getting out of the starting area requires finding one of those hidden passages. The other big structure you're going to come across are these gates, and you can only pass through them at certain times of day. The bar in the lower left is a clock to help you out with that. If some of your companions have died, you can travel to certain mountains where you'll encounter a phoenix that will revive everyone. And that's what you need to know to play Super Monkey Daibouken. I'm not going to have a lot of gameplay tips on this one because the gameplay really is just flail around wildly and hopefully something happens. I made it all the way to this giant in northwest China, where he finally took out the Monkey King, and then it's not like anybody else could attack, so that was game over. I have one more weird thing to mention about Super Monkey Daibouken. There's a hidden message in the graphics memory. Apparently it's possible to view it by tilting the cart and turning the system on, but I couldn't get that to work. The message is a crude bit of doggerel by the programmer. I'm not going to recite it, since I'd have to bleep about half of it, but you can read it at the cutting room floor if you'd like. Super Monkey Daibouken really earned its place as one of the champions of terrible games. It's ugly, it's physically painful to play, it's flaky, and if I have to hear that shrill music one more time, I think I might stab myself in my ear. It's also not very difficult, so if you want to go for the ultimate masochism run, it's certainly doable.